Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. Go through some of the comments, talk about some of the things that were mentioned in the comment section, give a bit of an update on what's going on around the country at the moment. I mentioned yesterday that more restrictions were being planned for various parts of Spain, and of course yesterday the Catalan government came out and announced that they were going to close down restaurants and bars in Catalonia for the next 15 days. Now, some people around the country are calling the Catalan government's decision drastic. Maybe they could have done something similar to what we have here in Madrid, where they limit people's movements and close down bars and restaurants at 10 or 11 p.m., but not close them down entirely. The only thing that restaurants can do in Catalonia for the next 15 days is sell takeaway food. And a lot of restaurant owners are saying that only selling takeaway food is not a viable or sustainable option for their business. And today they've come out and said that they're going to hit the streets and protest against the government's decision to shut them down for the next 15 days. Now, maybe it's just me, but I'm a little bit confused by what's happening in Catalonia, because a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even less, they came out and said that they're going to allow nightclubs and discotheques to open until 3 o'clock in the morning, and now of course they're shutting down the whole restaurant and bar scene in Catalonia. So what's gone wrong in that last week? Why would you announce 10 days ago that you're going to open nightlife and then yesterday come out and say that you're going to shut the whole thing down? And this unfortunately is what makes it so confusing for the general population. But obviously the intention here is to stop people socializing, and I think that that's one of the main problems at the moment, that people are socializing a little bit too hard. In fact, one newspaper today came out with a headline that said 7 out of 10 infections here in Spain are caused by the intense social life of the Spanish. They say that this need that the Spaniards have to socialize is their Achilles heel, and that is one of the reasons why the virus is spreading so quickly in cities around Spain at the moment. And of course, every day we see the images on the TV of illegal parties, we see the images on TV of students having wild piss-ups, and it does seem to be very, very difficult to stop people from socializing. A lot of people just can't understand that it's probably not a good idea to get together with a large amount of people. And it's going to be interesting to see if other areas around Spain follow the Catalan lead and shut down bars and restaurants for a certain period of time in order to get those health numbers under control. And the health minister has come out today and said that the situation is worrying, unstable and fragile, so it seems to be that we are headed in that direction of more and more restrictions. I saw somebody in the comment section say that all of the problems in Spain at the moment are in Madrid, that he's in Murcia, that the situation there is not so bad. Well, in fact, I think it is pretty bad in some places in Murcia. In fact, a couple of areas in Murcia, Totana and Lorca, have had a difficult problem with the coronavirus over the last 6 or 7 months. So I don't know what some people are talking about when they say that in Murcia there's no problems. I also had somebody in the comment section say that I never talk about any good news, that I should talk about more uplifting things. Well, the fact of the matter is that there's not a lot of good news around at the moment, or at least I can't find it. Everything I read at the moment is either directly or indirectly related to the coronavirus, whether it be the fact that places are shutting down, people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of doom and gloom around at the moment, unfortunately. I would love to talk about more positive things, and in fact I might deliberately look for a more positive story every day just to include it in the news in case there is too much doom and gloom around. But unfortunately, I think we're in for a pretty tough 6 to 8 months. Now, I talked a little bit about the economy in yesterday's video, something about that gap between the north of Europe and the south of Europe widening, which it seems to do every year, or it has been at least for the last 10 years here in Spain, ever since we had that financial crisis. And I said that my understanding of the European Union was to bring that gap between the north and the south closer together. But it seems to be a very, very difficult thing to do. How long is it going to take? That's the question. Is it 1 generation? Is it 2 generations before that gap closes? And all of these problems that we have, whether it's the current one or whether it's the one we have 10 years ago, as I said, seem to make this gap even bigger. And what's the problem in the south of Europe? Is it the structure of the economy? Is it corruption? I don't know what the problem is, but it seems to be extremely difficult to close that gap. Was Spain ready to join the European Union? Was Portugal ready to join the European Union? Was Greece ready to join the European Union? That's a question that we could ask. Again, with the euro, was Spain ready to join the monetary union? I don't know. That's a question that I often ask myself. We saw what happened a few years ago when Spain nearly brought down the euro. So I don't know whether the country was ready to join the European Union or the monetary union. And that's something that we could debate. And corruption is in the news again here today. The famous Gürtel case. Apparently the Supreme Court has upheld the sentences that were handed down a couple of years ago to the people involved in this scandal, the most famous being a man called Luis Bárcenas. Now, if you're not familiar with the Gürtel case, it was one of the biggest corruption scandals here in Spain. It involved the Partido Popular, the PP party, and to be honest, I don't think that they have yet recovered from this scandal. The majority of the heavyweights in the party were involved in the scandal, huge amounts of money involved, and I think the treasurer, Luis Bárcenas, that person I mentioned before, amassed a personal fortune of something like 60 million euros allegedly that he put into bank accounts in Switzerland. Now, I was reading an English newspaper here in Spain the other day called The Local, and they have a section in that paper which is called the Word of the Day, and the word of the day that they had the other day was chorizo. Now, a lot of people will associate the word chorizo with a dried cured meat. Very, very popular here in Spain to have, for example, a bocata de chorizo if you go to a football game. But there's another meaning for the word chorizo, and it means thief, and this is the one that they were talking about in the newspaper. So here in Spain, when you talk about politicians and political corruption, you'll often hear people here call politicians chorizos. Es un chorizo, son chorizos, meaning that they're thieves, that they're corrupt, that they're not honest. And that is an interesting use of the word chorizo. The most common word for thief in Spanish is ladrón. You'll also hear that word quite a lot, es un ladrón or son ladrones. So as I said, you'll quite often hear people call politicians ladrones, chorizos, mangantes, corruptos. All of those words, unfortunately, can be heard quite a lot when people talk about politics in this country. So if you hear a Spanish person using the word chorizo, they might not be referring to the cured meat. Now, hot off the press, it's just been announced that Salamanca is going to be the latest city to impose restrictions on the population. I don't think they're going to be as hard as they are in Catalonia. Bars are going to be allowed to operate, but there's going to be restrictions on how many people can go into the bars and restaurants in that city. And Brussels has also come out and said that countries need to do whatever it takes in order to get this situation under control, or else confinements or stricter confinements like the ones that we had earlier in the year are going to be the only option to try to tackle the coronavirus here in Europe, and in particular in countries like Spain. So Salamanca joining other cities in Castilla y León, for example, León City, Palencia, Navarra in the north of Spain also with serious restrictions, Madrid of course with a state of alarm situation, Catalonia as I just mentioned with the most drastic measures. But hey, we got to do what we got to do to get this situation under control, and if it means that we can't go to a restaurant, if it means that we can't go to a bar, if it means that we have to stay at home, if we can't go to a party, then that is what we're going to have to do. And it seems obvious that too many people are not doing what they should be doing. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.